Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and welcome to day 4 of the filler content streams in nothing week. It's basically nothing week. We're still in the international break, the winter break, whatever you want to call it. We are desperate for some FPL back in our lives, so this stream / video, depending on when you're watching this, is again another one of those filler videos that is just here to keep things ticking over in this long and painful wait until we can finally play FPL again. Gameweek 24 seems so far away, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. And in fact, I say Gameweek 24. Interestingly, in this stream, we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about Game Week 25, because those of you who don't know, the Game Week 25 deadline is just a couple of days after the Game Week 24 deadline, so it's going to go from no FPL to lots of FPL in a very, very short period of time, which is quite wild, really. But that's kind of where we're at right now, and yeah, I feel like this video is actually kind of useful to do now. You know, although I call it filler content, I actually think like this could be a kind of useful video because we're not really going to get too much time to kind of talk about the double game week 25, which is going to be a double. We're going to have Manchester United doubling. We're going to have Brighton doubling. We're not going to have too much time to talk about that between Game Week 24 and Game Week 25 anyway. So why not talk about it now? Why not start having a little think about it now? So yeah, hope you guys are all doing very well despite having very little to do FPL wise. Hopefully your head's in the game. Hope you're all doing very well. But yeah, if you do enjoy this stream / video, do please like it. Really, really helps. And yeah, subscribe as well if you fancy it. And yeah, basically we're just going to be talking all things double game week. So feel free, guys, if you have any questions in the chat, we will try and answer stuff as well. And I'm just going to go through some of my thoughts on how to kind of attack this double game week to the best of your ability, whether you're using your wild card, whether you're using transfers, whatever. Let's get on with it. So, guys, first and foremost, let's have a quick look at the fixtures. So, we have Manchester United, double game week, 25 fixtures. You can see here, 2 fixtures, Southampton at home and Brighton at home. So, 2 nice home fixtures against 2, you would say they're fairly decent oppositions. I know Southampton have been a little bit of a troublesome side recently, a little bit. But we have kind of seen that Southampton have been a little overperforming a little bit, actually. They're kind of been expected to concede a few more goals than they actually have, and they can be got out. Are they going to continue to be a bogey team? Are they going to, do well or do badly? Still, you look at these 2 fixtures. Southampton at home is a very good fixture. Brighton at home, Brighton are a team that always concedes 1 goal. That's the frustration with them. We like to think of Brighton as a good defensive team, which they kind of are, but for sure that they're a team that still concedes goals, which is super frustrating if you're a Brighton defensive owner, but it's at least something if we are looking at attacking at these fixtures, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking at doing. So for Manchester United, I would say they're 2 reasonably good fixtures. You would say that's a pretty nice double game week. It's not amazing, it's not a double of Watford and Norwich or anything like that, but it's still pretty good, so be happy about that. It is worth targeting. We'll kind of talk about how we're going to target it shortly. And then we've got Brighton as well. They have got Watford away and Manchester United away. Something to be well aware of is, of course, that Brighton do blank in Game Week 24. So if you're not on a wild card, it might actually be worth waiting, just waiting before you pull the trigger on those Brighton players. So Watford away, very, very good fixture from both an attacking and defensive point of view there. We kind of saw if Norwich can do it, then Brighton can do it against Watford, right? Watford, I don't know. Let's see how they kind of do in next weekend when they play their game against Burnley. But Watford, I don't know kind of where they're at the moment. They're kind of managerless. Well, they're not now. They've got Roy Hodgson. Are they going to have a new manager bounce under Roy Hodgson? I don't know. Are they going to be a very attacking team under Roy Hodgson? Probably not. So actually, maybe that's a good game from a defensive point of view and an attacking point of view for our Brighton players, if you can trust the Brighton attack, that is. And then Manchester United away, it's a strange question, really, because we don't really know what the deal is with Manchester United. They seem up and down. Their results seem, almost random sometimes. We don't really know exactly what the situation's there. So, I mean, I guess any game against Manchester United, no matter what player you're picking against them, is a bit of a roll of the dice. So, if you've got a Brighton player, although you might be kind of confident in a good result against Watford, Manchester United is going to be a bit more of a roll of the dice. If I was to tell you that Brighton were going to beat Manchester United 1-0, you would probably think, yeah, okay, I can see that happening. If I was to say it's going to be a 1-1, you'd say, yeah, that's a pretty likely result. If I was to say 2-1 Manchester United, you'd say, yeah, that's a fair result as well. That's very possible. 1-0 Manchester United could very well happen. So I don't think this is going to be a super high scoring game, but it's one of those games where the result really could go anywhere. Really could go anywhere because Brighton are a good team. Manchester United, a team that are kind of all over the place at the moment. We don't know exactly what the situation is going to be. So there we go. A few people asking about FIFA in the chat. We're not going to talk about FIFA. I tell you what, I actually don't have a clue. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do tomorrow's stream, because tomorrow will be the last of the filler stream week. I have no idea what I'm going to be making tomorrow's stream about. So if you're watching this video, not live, maybe you want to leave a comment what you kind of would like to see. Maybe I'll ask on Twitter as well what you guys kind of want to see for a stream tomorrow. But, judging by the chat today, it could be something to do with FIFA, but I don't think everyone will be too interested in that one. But there we go. I mean, I do have actually a lot of packs to open tomorrow at 6. Like a lot of packs. Like 80 packs to open. Saves. Anyway, I digress. So there you go, guys. Those are the fixtures. Those are what we're kind of dealing with our players. And from here, I guess it's a case of who do we go for? Well, I think we start off with Manchester United. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go onto the Fantasy Football Hub website. We're going to kind of look at a tool that I really like of theirs. I'm sure they won't mind me showing off this tool in this stream. If they do have a problem, they can always give me a message and tell me to take it down. But it's been fine in the past, and also, it's free promo for them, so I'm sure it's all very good. But I think this is just a really useful tool. So I'm just going to use it and show you kind of what I'm looking at in terms of trying to figure out who the best players are for this double game week. So let's start off with Manchester United. You can see in front of you a bunch of stats. I know it's probably looking really, really dry, really, really boring, but we're kind of looking at some stats right now of who we quite like from Manchester United. And what I've done here is I've basically done the last, from game week 18 to 23. So these stats are from Manchester United players from game week 18 to 23. I think we can probably go per appearance as well, just so... or maybe per start, just so we've got some good stats for players who have started rather than, because some players will have less starts and less minutes than others. So we'll do it per start, and we can kind of see a little bit more here who looks good. And there are a few players that do look a lot better than others. I think there's a clear divide, basically, which defines who's a good shout and who's a bad shout. So this is the top 10. This is the top 10 on expected points, not actual points, expected points from game week 18 onwards. And this, my friends, is what we're kind of looking at. And I think we're looking at all of the players from De Gea upwards. So Fernandes, Greenwood, Ronaldo, Elanga, and De Gea. These are the players that are actually showing pretty good underlying stats. Now, this is probably pretty difficult to read, so I am going to change it back to totals, and just so it's a little bit easier for you guys to read, but we can still get a similar idea. But let's tick the players that we like. This is really feeling like an advert now, isn't it? I can promise you it's not. But so these are kind of the players that we're looking at. I'm going to untick them because it's a bit easier to read with the black text. So here we go. Here are who I think are the top 5 Manchester United players to go for. Now, I'm sure you guys immediately, judging by yesterday's stream, you're going to be screaming at the screen right now, where is Dalot? Where is Dalot? We're not going to talk about Dalot. I'm not. You guys, if you want to go for Dalot, absolutely. But Dalot is certainly not a player that I am comfortable with recommending, really, just because I honestly think his minutes are going to be seriously limited. He's a really good price, and he's going to play occasionally. He's probably going to play more often than Wan-Bissaka, but there is going to be a little bit of rotation there. Wan-Bissaka should be good to go, but more than good to go by game week 25. So Wan-Bissaka will be very much in the mix. There's going to be rotation between the two players, and particularly if we're going for a double game week, double game week player. I know you guys want to go for the cheap option. It looks too good to be true, right? But let's be real, guys. If we let's find Dalot on here and kind of look at some of his minutes. We saw in game of 20 and 21 when Wan-Bissaka was back and available, he came, Wan-Bissaka came straight back into the team, and it wasn't until Wan-Bissaka got injured again that Dalot came in for that. So, yes, you can say Dalot's played very well. Has he played himself into the team permanently? That is a speculation that you guys can make if you want. I'm not going to go there personally. I just really strongly feel like and we're talking about double game weeks here, right? We're going for double game weeks. If we're talking about double game weeks specifically, we need a player who is going to play both of those games. That's what we need. And particularly when you kind of look at these three fixtures all so close together, Tuesday the 8th, Saturday the 12th, Tuesday and 15th. Do you really think Dalot, a rotation risk player, is going to play all three of those games? If we're talking about targeting players for the double game week specifically, he's not the one. I don't think he's the one. And I don't think, honestly, any of the Manchester United defenders are the one, because I just don't really trust Manchester United's defence that much. De Gea, on the other hand, he does get save points as well. He does get bonus points as well. So that is quite nice. So, Dalot, if you really fancy it, go for it. But he's not going to be a player I'm going to talk about today. Ironically, I say after having just spoken about him for 15 minutes, right? But there you go. So if you fancy him, go for him. But he's not going to be one of the discussed players today. So here are the discussed players. And, we've got one defensive player and 4 attacking players. Again, Alanga is another one of those players who you can possibly say, has he played himself into the team? Maybe. But, that again, that is speculative. He's done really well as well. As well as Dalot. So maybe there's an argument to say Alanga shouldn't be spoken about either. But I do think that if you are going to go for a Manchester United, defensive player, De Gea seems head and shoulders above anyone else. Not just because he gets the clean sheet points, but because he gets a lot of saves. He's in some real good form. He's making a lot of saves. So you're kind of thinking, even if we go into this double game week, we know that De Gea is nailed. He's going to play every single game, as he has done all season. We kind of look at these two fixtures, and you would say that even if Manchester United do keep do lose out on a clean sheet in one of those games, that De Gea is still going to be in for save points. If one of Southampton and Brighton, more likely Southampton, do score against Manchester United, you'll know that it's probably because they've taken a lot of shots, and De Gea has actually saved Manchester United's bacon a few times, and he has done that. We've seen that a lot with De Gea. He's saving United's bacon. He's getting save points. He's getting bonus points. He's getting the odd clean sheet as well, and they're all totting up and creating a really nice scoring player at the moment. That's exactly what De Gea is, a really nice scoring player. So you can imagine over the double game week, 2 games where you could conceivably see a double clean sheet, but you wouldn't be 100% sure on it. But also, that there's going to be a decent amount of save points across the 2 games, and maybe even bonus. If Manchester United keep a clean sheet, it's probably because De Gea has made a few saves, and if he's making a few saves, he's involved. And then he's going to get bonus points as well, particularly if Manchester United don't win by a lot. I can particularly see that happening in Brighton, in that Brighton game. Manchester United maybe win 1-0 or something like that, 2-0. De Gea's made, 5-6 saves in that game, which is going to give De Gea a haul. It's going to give him 10 points plus in that game alone, right? So amazing. And, add whatever you can get from the Southampton game, maybe 2 points for playing and an extra point for 3 saves, something like that. Then we are looking at a real haul for De Gea. So for that reason, that is something I don't think any other Manchester United defensive asset really brings to the table. I don't think Manchester United are particularly fantastic defensively in general. So Manchester United defenders are not players I'd like to hold on to in general for a long period of time. But De Gea, because of those bonus points, because of those save points that he is picking up, where no other Manchester United defender is really picking up those points. Bonus points, even assist points, goal points, not really happening too much with other Manchester United defenders, is it? Other than maybe Dalot if he plays, but again, we kind of spoke about him being rotation risk. So, yeah, for that reason, De Gea I think is a fantastic pick, and I genuinely would consider captaining De Gea. If De Gea was your only Manchester United player, only double game week player, then I would probably think about captaining De Gea. I know we're going to talk about Ronaldo or Bruno. There is genuinely debate, and we don't say this very often. There is genuine debate because of how inconsistent Ronaldo and Bruno are right now, and how consistent, on the other hand, De Gea is, there's debate to say, is De Gea actually the answer to our captain choice for Gameweek 25? Genuine possibility. I honestly, I wouldn't be against that at all. Yeah, not at all. But anyway, we're going to talk about some other players because Elanga is a real risky one. But he is super, super cheap. For a midfielder, 4.8 million. That is a high risk, high reward. Maybe you would put Dallo in the same category. I mean, I say I'm not going to talk. I mean, forget the fact that I said I'm not going to talk about Dallo because he's going to come up constantly, I imagine. But, high risk, high reward players. The good thing about Elanga is that you can just kind of resign him to your bench. He's not that much more expensive than your base level, midfielders, particularly if you're trying to, gain a little bit of cash and you're happy to take a risk. The thing is, when I think of Elanga, I think about, a Manchester United midfielder who is super, super, super cheap. Actually, I think, when midfielder, attacker, whatever, is I think back to Mason Greenwood in the 2019-20 season. He was a 4.5 million forward, I believe. And he basically, at the end of the season, he got given this real nice run of, he was playing really well. He was given a run of games. He was trusted and he was on absolute fire. A 4.5 million forward for Manchester United, who are, playing really, really well at the time, on absolute flames. And we kind of look at these underlying stats right now. We can see in four games, which includes one substitute appearance. I think Elanga's played the last 3 games consecutively, and the one before that he came on as a sub. Yeah, that's exactly right. So last 3 games he started. The game before that he came on in a sub. So even though some of these games have been pretty tricky, Wolves, Aston Villa, West Ham, tricky games for him really. Especially when you compare that to a Burnley, Southampton, Brighton, Leeds, Watford, which are much easier games really if you think about it. But look at these underlying stats. In the limited minutes that he's had 7 shots, 6 of them in the box. He had 1 big chance, 0.76 expected goals. He scored once. He's also made 2 key passes for 0.31 expected assists as well. So if he could keep his place, then that's actually not too bad. And I don't know if there's any Manchester United fans in the chat, any Manchester United fans in the comment section as well. If you're watching this as a video, as a stream replay, do let me know what you think about Elanga, because from what I've seen, I've seen quite a lot of Manchester United fans actually kind of confident that he's going to keep his place with the form of some other players kind of dipping in that United attack. Maybe Elanga is really going to get his chance here. So let me know what you think of that. Is that super, super risky? Is that so risky it's stupid? Or is there genuine possibility for a real gem here? Is this a future essential player? Is this a diamond in the rough? A Manchester United forward, listed as a midfielder, super, super cheap, extra points, extra points for goals compared to those forwards. Jonathan Daniel in the chat says Ralph is a big fan of Elanga. Emil says Elanga looks lively. Well, liveliness is a really important thing, right? But there you go. So that's a risky choice for you. But the other ones are a bit more sensible. And now a player who I think is going under. We know about Fernandes. We know about Ronaldo. I'm not going to talk about them in too much detail. Ronaldo is, really kind of killing Fernandes in terms of shot quantity. But Ronaldo has kind of been arguably off form a little bit at the moment, not quite himself. Is he, after this long break, is he going to be back and, ready? He has been carrying injuries. We do know he has been carrying injuries. Is he going to be back to his best? If so, he is the man for shooting. Stats there, you can see 17 shots, 12 in the box, 3 big chances, which is really nice, 1.61 expected goals. Maybe underperforming a little bit on that. We would probably typically expect Ronaldo to maybe get 2 goals from 1.61 XG. And he's got an assist there as well, so he is creating a few chances. So, really nice. Bruno Fernandes thrives without Ronaldo. We do know that he thrives when Ronaldo's not in there. Ronaldo on penalties as well. So that's going to take a little bit of, interest away from Fernandes. We've also kind of seen Fernandes play in a variety of positions recently, right? So he's kind of been playing sometimes a little bit too deep. So for that reason, again, Fernandes is a good pick for a few reasons. One, you'll probably say nailed on in this Manchester United side, so he's going to play both of those double game week fixtures. He is the creative hub of that Manchester United team. He is, he's going to be on some set pieces, right? But he can sometimes drop a little bit deep and be in the wrong positions. Now, the one saving grace of Fernandes, which is something that I quite like Fernandes, we already spoken about the fact that Salah might not be quite ready to come back quite yet. We don't know exactly when Salah's going to be back. Is it going to be it could be as late as game week 26 when Salah plays next for Liverpool, in which case, is Fernandes actually a really, really nice placeholder for someone like Salah? So we have Fernandes for now, we have him for these nice fixtures, we have him for the double game week, and then we swap him out for Salah, maybe even captain Fernandes in that double game week. We've seen already how he can dominate a double game week, right? And then Ronaldo, you can say a similar thing. Is Ronaldo, if you're going to get Salah in before that, you don't want to wait until game week 25 to get Salah. You want him now. Then you don't really need a placeholder for Salah, in which case is Ronaldo maybe a good placeholder for someone like Harry Kane, whose fixtures will improve in the near future, and Harry Kane, who has got a lot of double game weeks to come as well, and who seems to be reclaiming his form. Is Ronaldo, in fact, the Manchester United attacker to go for? Even though he's been off form recently, he's still shooting a lot. Is he going to be fit, much fitter, much more available? He's had his neck injury, he's had his back injury. Is he going to be back to his best after this nice, long, extended break from football? Fresh, He's going to be nailed if he's available. I mean, if they play him when he's injured, then they're going to play him when he's fit, surely. So he's going to give you 2 games. Less points for goals, less points for, no points for clean sheets. More bonus points for getting goals, though. And a good transition from Ronaldo to Kane. So if you already have Salah, or you already have a plan in place to get Salah into your team, or you're not interested in Fernandes, maybe Ronaldo is the choice there. But finally, the player who I think is going under the radar a little bit is Greenwood. Greenwood is really going under the radar. Someone in the chat just mentioned actually that, if you want to move Fernandes to a Son, actually that's a really good point, to be fair. Maybe, even if you're sorted with Salah, Fernandes to Son in a couple of game weeks is a really good, a really good move as well that you could go for in the future. The problem is we don't really know, well, right this second we don't know the situation with Son, but hopefully he should be back. Certainly by the time that Fernandes finishes his excellent double game week. So yeah, that's actually, it's a really, really good point. So maybe Fernandes is the one to go for rather than Ronaldo if you want to get in Son. Then Ronaldo is the one you want to go for if you want to get in Kane. So Fernandes, I mean, maybe that is the deciding factor, because I'm finding it kind of difficult to choose between the two. I am still edging towards Ronaldo. I do prefer Ronaldo as an FPL asset. If you take the average from the entire season, yes, Fernandes has been showing some better form from Ronaldo, but there's a long break. I think Ronaldo, he's good. He's a professional. He's good enough that he can get back to his best. I do think I prefer Ronaldo slightly, but maybe the actual question is, are you looking to have a Manchester United player to transition them into a Salah or a Son? If so, Fernandes saves you a transfer. Do that. Or if not, Ronaldo. You want to do Ronaldo to Kane? You want to get Kane later down the line? Perfect. Then Ronaldo is your answer. So maybe that's a way that you can decide to do that. But yeah, like I said, I do want to talk about Greenwood. The great thing about Greenwood is that he's super cheap and super under the radar. No one's really talking about him, but actually, from looking at his underlying stats, he's actually kind of on par with Fernandes and Ronaldo at the moment, and he seems to be keeping his place as well, which is really, really nice to see. So Greenwood at the top of this list, 7.2 million price, 16 shots, 10 in the box, 3 big chances, and a whopping 1.98 expected goals. He is underperforming because he's only got 1 goal despite having 1.98 expected goals, which is unlike Greenwood, to be fair. Greenwood is typically, from what we've seen over a longer stretch of time, Greenwood is a player who actually overperforms his XG. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Maybe we're going to see Greenwood get back to the average on his data making a little bit more sense. And a lot of people, they just look at how many goals and assists a player has scored. They don't kind of look at the player, how lucky or unlucky they have been to get goals or not get goals, or regression to mean and stuff like that. I'm not going to bore you with the geeky stuff, but looking at these underlying stats, Greenwood should have, you would say, from his XG and his XA, he should have had over the last 6 game weeks, or 6 games anyway, 2 goals and 1 assist. And he hasn't had that. But next time, he might. Next time, he might overperform that. Yes, he could underperform it again, but that would be, out of character, I think, of Greenwood to consistently underperform on his XG. I think that would be strange. He's, before Ronaldo's arrival, he was regarded as the best finisher at Manchester United, and I still think, he would be considered the second best finisher at Manchester United, with Ronaldo there as well. So yeah, a real under the radar player, a little risk that you could afford to take, I think, if you really fancied a little spicy differential, and we do like our spicy differentials here, then Greenwood could be the guy. Someone in the chat says Greedy Wood. Yeah, he can be greedy sometimes, but you can see that he's got 4 key passes and 1 big chance created, so he's creating a little bit at least, right? But no, I think that could be an interesting differential to go for. But I think the player who I'd be most confident about, especially if I was on a wild card, would be De Gea in terms of a player to just have for the double game week. After that, it's kind of a coin toss between Fernandes and Ronaldo. Maybe you want to captain them. I would probably try and bring in one of Fernandes or Ronaldo if you don't have either of them. Pick your favourite, or even go for both. If you've already got one, maybe use your transfers and get the other. Could be a kind of interesting little thing to go for there. Maybe, if you've got De Bruyne, you want to captain him against Brentford, maybe switch De Bruyne to Fernandes next game week or something like that in Gameweek 25, so you've got that double game week player there. It's an option. And Greenwood as a spicy differential is much more accessible, because he is much more accessible. I don't know who you guys are going to be thinking about removing to get Greenwood in, but there's certainly players in that area of price that could actually warrant a pretty decent straight transfer from a mid-price midfielder to a Greenwood. And you've got that spicy differential there as well. So there you go. Kind of an interesting one. If you fancy that one as well. Savio says, would you captain Greenwood if you got him or De Gea? I would captain De Gea over Greenwood, I think. Just because De Gea is nailed on for that double game week. I really just feel like, because he's got that nailedness, it's quite nice. AB says Ronaldo ain't scored or assist in how long? I had him for weeks. I had enough. He's out. You got to remember he hasn't been fully fit. Look, I know you probably don't want Ronaldo long term, but surely if you've had him this long, you can wait at least until the double game week is done and dusted. So I definitely would be keeping Ronaldo. If you have any of these players you see on screen, by the way, guys, Greenwood, De Gea, Fernandes, Ronaldo, Elanga, even Adalo. If you have any of those players, you've got to keep them. You've definitely got to keep them for the double, and then maybe think about shifting them after. You're only going to have to wait a few days. As soon as this new game week, the Game Week 24 start, or Game Week 24 starts, sorry, yeah. Game Week 25 is only a couple of days after. So it's not like you're going to have to keep these players for weeks and weeks and weeks more. Just kind of keep them. So there we go. Right, let's move on to our Brighton players. Which we'll do a shorter section on Brighton, I suppose, but it's still definitely worth talking about. So I have ordered these players by expected points again. So this is a list of expected points over the last however many game weeks. Is it 6 game weeks? It's since game week 18 anyway. So that's 6 game weeks, yeah. So 6 games is the maximum amount of games a Brighton player could have played. And this is the order. And what you can probably see is some players who you probably were pretty, confident about, maybe slightly lower in the table than you thought. I mean, a lot of people, when we talk about which Brighton attacker are we going to go for, we usually talk about a Trossard, we usually talk about Morpay. Let's switch this to per start, just so maybe we get a better idea of the kind of table. That does shoot Trossard to the top, fair enough, but Morpay is even lower by this standpoint. So okay, maybe maybe Trossard is definitely worth having a conversation about. But again, I think what we do is we take the I think we take the top players here. We take them. I mean, the problem is with Dan Burn, is he gonna be rotated? Who's gonna be the defenders for our Brighton team? Is Dunk gonna be back yet? Maybe by the double game week, by game week 25, is Dunk gonna be back? That's a rotation risk, I suppose. Veltman is probably more nailed on, you would say, longer term. I don't know if we've got any Brighton fans in the chat. There's not very many of them out there, but hang on, let me just see if there's any other. Webster as well. He's probably more nailed on than a Burn. Webster's probably. In fact, Webster is probably the most nailed on of all of the defenders, other than maybe Cucurella is probably there or thereabouts as well. So a risky one. Who do we have? I guess Veltman and Webster. We'll add them to the conversation. I don't think a lot of people will be screaming Lamptey at the screens, because I know you guys have had Lamptey, but I'm sorry. We spoke about this a lot. Count Seelor, if you're watching, you'll probably be very, very angry with me for not including Lamptey, because I know you have him in your team. But he's rotation risk, and he is, and that's just a fact. And over a double game week, over a period of time where Brighton have to play 3 games within the space of a week, Lamptey's not going to play all 3 of them. His minutes are always managed. That's just the way it is. You just got to kind of deal with that. So if you've got Lamptey already, again, keep him. But if you don't have Lamptey, he would not be the Brighton defender I'd be going for. I would be probably going for one as cheap as possible. But anyway, let's get on with it. So let's have a look at these players who I've selected, and I'm going to just uncheck them. But yeah, so defender-wise, there is 3 players. There is Cucurella, Veltman and Webster. We've got a goalkeeper in Sanchez as well, so let's speak about them. Clean sheet prospects against Watford, pretty decent, I think. Clean sheet prospects against Manchester United, not so decent really. And there is obviously that worry that Brighton concede their 1 goal per game. That seems to be the way things are. If we go on, let's just find Cucurella, for example, because he's been playing every game this season, hasn't he? And we kind of look at how many goals Brighton have conceded, which is this column here. So that one upwards, you can see 1 goal conceded, 1 goal conceded, 1, 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. So it seems to be that clean sheets are kind of hard to come by, and you can say fair enough. Some of these fixtures have been difficult. Leicester, Chelsea, twice actually, kind of difficult. But some of these fixtures, Southampton, Wolves, Brentford, they kept the clean sheet in, but Everton, maybe Crystal Palace, these are kind of fixtures you would really hope that we get some clean sheets at least from Brighton, at least some. But overall, Brighton are a team that can keep clean sheets. They just don't seem to be doing it. So you can either go on the school of thought, well, they can do it, so they will do it. It's going to happen eventually. Why not in the double game week? Double your chances of getting a clean sheet in such a game week. Fixtures are pretty good. Watford is a pretty good fixture. Manchester United, yes, fair enough, difficult, but this is a Brighton team that's only conceded once to Chelsea on 2 occasions over the last 5 game weeks. So that's pretty good as well. Are Manchester United in a particularly better place than Chelsea right now? Probably, they're probably both a little bit kind of not in the mud, but in a difficult period of the season, each of them. So if they can go a game and only concede 1 goal, then they can go a game and only concede 0 goals as well. Maybe against Manchester United as well. So it's possible. But is this Brighton team, who are struggling for clean sheets a little bit, are they worth spending the money on? Now, people in the chat are already kind of identified Cucurella as, a real obvious choice there. We know he's super nailed on. We know he, has a bit of creativity behind him. You can see on screen on the row that you can see Cucurella on over the last 6 games that he's played. 3 shots, so he's taken a shot every other game. Very, very low quality of shot. You can see only 0.03 expected goals, so really low quality of shot. So don't be expecting goals from Cucurella, but there is a little bit of creativity there. 7 key passes, 1 big chance created, and 1 assist as well. So he has got an attacking return in recent games. And that's pretty good news. That's pretty good news. The problem is with Cucurella is he's 5.1 million. And 5.1 million is a lot of money to be spending on a defender who is not keeping consistent clean sheets, is not a goal threat really. And although that he is creating a few chances, Brighton are not a team that score a lot of goals anyway. And it's not like insane. I mean, 7 key passes in 6 games. If that was Trent or, Reece James earlier on this season or Cancelo, or if we want to use more realistic examples, even a Luca Digne. If Luca Digne was creating just over 1 key pass per game, you would be disappointed in that. And that is a Luca Digne who is, on set pieces, who is playing for a slightly better defence, who's playing for an improving team as well, and who's playing for a team that scores more goals as well. So you'd expect, more goals to come from the chances that he creates. So if you're looking at direct Cucurella versus Digne, it seems like Digne is really the obvious answer. Even if you consider a double game week, in the same game week, if we find Digne in the same game week, so this is game week 25, Digne plays against Newcastle. And honestly, if you told me Digne was going to outscore Cucurella in double game week 25, despite only playing 1 fixture, I would be, I would believe that. I think that Newcastle game has got a really good chance of a clean sheet. And I think there's obviously going to be opportunities for attacking returns for Digne as well. So, for that reason, can we justify spending 5.1 million on Cucurella? That's up to you. I'm not super keen on it. Obviously, if you have this player already, fine. Obviously that's a great situation to be in. But if we're particularly, and what I will tell you guys is, if you are buying in Cucurella now, you're going to find yourself benching him a lot. Do you want to spend 5.1 million on a defender who you're going to bench a lot? Probably not. If you're going to do that, maybe make this transfer move work to your advantage in some other way. So if you were to go for a Veltman or a Webster, for example, who are lower down on this list, as you can see, they'll be probably almost as nailed as Cucurella, probably just as nailed if we're kind of more reasonable. They have a little bit more attacking threat, maybe in terms of goals, probably. Although it's negligible because we're splitting hairs here. We're talking about very, very low attacking threats in general, so don't expect any goals. Cucurella is obviously good for assists, occasional assists. But if you've got a Veltman or a Webster in, super, super cheap, Veltman's probably your guy, your go-to. 4.2 million for a double game week defender. You pretty much will be relying on clean sheet points only, but not only if you've got a double game week player, probably going to get 4 points minimum over the double game week, and then an additional clean sheet if you're fortunate there. But you've also probably downgraded another one of your defenders to do it. Maybe you're taking out an Alonso or someone like that to bring in a Veltman, and you've managed to bank in some cash. You've managed to bank some money for later on. And if you bank some money for later on, who knows? If you're looking to get salary in game weeks to come, you could potentially bank $1 million by going for a Veltman rather than a Cucurella. Is that 1 million going to be really useful to you down the line when you want to get back in Salah? Is that 1 million going to be really useful to go for some other like players? I don't know what other players you want to upgrade to, but is that 1 million going to be useful and just have Veltman as a bench cover for future game weeks? Like I said, Cucurella is probably going to sit on your bench anyway in future game weeks. Veltman, yes, he's going to sit on your bench, but he also, he frees up some cash as well. He frees up some money for you to spend elsewhere. And for that reason, if I was to go for a Brighton defender for the double game week, I would genuinely be leaning towards Veltman, particularly if you like your other defenders. If you're in a situation where you've got, obviously, a lot of you guys are going to have Trent, you're going to have Cancelo. Maybe you've got a third, a second City defender. Maybe you've got Laporte there. Maybe you've got a Digne there. Maybe you've got a Rudiger there still. Probably going to sell him, to be fair, but maybe you've got a Robertson there, or you want to bring in Robertson. these kind of players are going to start for you every week. There's not going to be room for Cucurella. There's not going to be room for your Brighton defender in future game weeks. It just kind of feels like there's not going to be room for him. So do you want 5.1 million sitting on your bench for future game weeks? And the only advantage Cucurella gives you is a potential assist in a team that doesn't score many goals anyway. I mean, look at this, 0.63 expected assists from Cucurella in 6 games. So per game, oh God, am I going to try and do the maths here? Yeah, okay, it's pretty easy. Per game, he has got a 1 in 10 chance of getting an assist. So over a double game week, he's placed twice. He's got a 20% chance. I hope my maths is right, otherwise I'm going to get crucified. But roughly, he has got a 20% chance of getting a clean sheet over the double game week. Is that 20% chance of an assist worth going for him over a much cheaper Veltman or a Webster when you consider how much money is going to be wasted? Because remember, Cucurella goes to your bench. You're probably not going to use a transfer him. You're probably going to be stuck with a Cucurella stuck to your bench for a little while. Maybe he'll be a useful sub at some points, but no more useful than a Veltman or a Webster, right? So that's all I'm going to say. Bonus points is a good point in the chat lead. Fair enough. Bonus points as well. It's a trade-off, and that's kind of what you got to decide. You got to kind of decide for yourself, do I believe enough? Because I really do believe that Cucurella is going to be rooted to your bench if you've got some of these other, big defenders. In this double game week, do you think Cucurella is going to be worth your while? Do you think he's going to outscore a Veltman or a Webster by enough to justify spending that extra money and potentially having that money locked to your bench for a period of time? That's all I'm going to say on that one. Let's talk about some attackers, guys, because we've spoken. Well, I mean, we can talk about Sanchez very quickly. A decent goalkeeper option if you're on a wild card, or if you already have him. But I wouldn't be using a transfer on Sanchez. That's all I'm going to say. I would be more tempted to use a transfer on De Gea just because he is in really good form at the moment. But Sanchez, just not keeping many clean sheets, not really making an insane amount of saves, really. Doesn't really seem worth using a transfer on, but could be a decent, either, if you're on a wild card and you want to have 2 goalkeepers maybe, or you want to, the wild card template pretty much right now is going to be either go for De Gea and Foster maybe, or go for Sanchez and Ramsdale. So that's a way you could get Sanchez in maybe. Seems a bit silly to go for both De Gea and Sanchez on a wild card since they both have their double at the same time. So yeah, perhaps not worth it. But anyway, guys, let's have a look at some attackers. So McAllister and Trossard. It seems like a no-brainer. Copsy Coop in the chat says Dan Bird. I do worry that Dan Bird may be rotation risk if we find that Lewis Dunk is back by that point. That's just a minor concern there, I suppose. McAllister and Trossard. It kind of seems like there's not too much in it other than the price, because McAllister is so cheap, 5.3 million. So I'm actually going to switch this to per start because I don't think it's fair to include Trossard's. Oh God, what have I done? What have you done? I don't think it's fair to include Trossard just because he did come off the bench and for very few points that one time. But over the last 6 game weeks per appearance, McAllister is playing more minutes. We kind of see that in general. McAllister seems like just a more nailed, more important player. Trossard is taking slightly more shots in the box. I say slightly more shots in the box. He's taking a lot more shots in the box. McAllister is shooting a lot from range, which is fine because he seems to be pretty good at shooting from range. But we can see that the quality of chances from Trossard is actually a lot nicer. The quality of chances is a lot nicer for Trossard. So even if McAllister is taking a similar amount of shots, the quality of shot is a little bit lower. Although, when I say the quality of shot, I mean in data terms, the quality of shot is not so good. Whereas Trossard has much higher quality of shot. You can see Trossard 1.5 shots in the box compared to 0.67 on McAllister, 0.75 big chances per game compared to 0.17 for McAllister, and 0.4 expected goals per game for Trossard compared to McAllister's 0.2. In terms of actual goal output, McAllister has scored, scoring a little bit more frequently than Trossard at the moment. But in terms of who is more likely to get a goal in any given game, Trossard seems to edge that one. I think we would all agree on that one. But something that is not so close is the creativity, where McAllister is smashing it, really killing it in terms of creativity. So 2 key passes per game. He's getting those big chances as well. He's got almost double the expected assists of Trossard. He's just more kind of involved in that creativity. So if your chances of an assist is a little bit higher, well, quite a lot higher actually with McAllister. So I think if you factor in the likeliness to score goals, shot quality, shot total, stuff like that, and then you look at creativity, Trossard and McAllister kind of balance each other out to a degree. And especially if you consider, minutes and nailed onness, which McAllister, slightly beats Trossard on. They kind of equal out a little bit. They're kind of roughly even in terms of how likely they are to get FPL points. However, McAllister is 5.3 million. And that is a huge plus side. Again, we're kind of talking about, do we want to save money? Are we looking to get in Salah soon? I know I'm looking to get Salah in soon. I'm gonna have to upgrade my Raheem Sterling to a Salah very soon. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm gonna have to find some pennies somewhere. And in that case, if you're in a similar situation, you need to find some pennies somewhere. McAllister, 5.3 million. Looks like an okay choice, really. If you think about it that way, you're going to get 4 points from him minimum, 5 points if this is over the double game week, 5 points if Brighton are able to keep a clean sheet from that game, and if he gets a goal return, then we're looking at 10 points plus for McAllister potentially there, aren't we? If you include bonus as well. So overall, I would edge towards McAllister. In the Trossard versus McAllister, I would edge towards McAllister. But do remember that in terms of attacking output, Brighton are kind of trappy, pretty trappy, very trappy, and they do underperform on their expected stats. I mean, McAllister is one of the few players who actually is overperforming in that Brighton team in terms of his points output. But I think for 5.3 million you can do a lot worse. But I wouldn't be really super desperate to get in a Brighton attacker. This is a player who's probably going to be on your bench or transferred immediately out again after the double game week. This is not a long-term option, and it's arguably a waste of a slot if you want other midfielders in the long term anyway. Whereas at least with your kind of Brighton defenders, a 4.2 million Veltman, it really doesn't matter if they sit on the bench. You're not going to, as a fifth defender, he's actually a wonderful choice for a fifth defender in your squad. And you can just play him for that one game week, and that's pretty good. So, yeah, if you really fancy going for a Brighton midfielder, fine. I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't be taking -4s to do it. I wouldn't be ripping up my whole team to do it. If it's convenient to you, then fair enough. If you need to downgrade someone to finance another move, for example, maybe that's the play. People mentioning Morpay in the chat will know full well what I think about Morpay and why I will never speak about him or recommend him on this channel ever again. Long-term listeners. But if you want to go for Morpay, that is completely on you, but I'm not even talking about him. I mean, he's an emoji in the he's a chat emoji or a channel emoji because he's just such a meme on this channel at this point. So I'm going to be blind to Morpay, unfortunately. But even statistically, if I just go back here, you can kind of see if we look at the forwards and attackers alone, forwards and midfielders alone, you kind of see that Morpay is kind of nowhere to be seen really. In terms of shots per game, he is all the way down lower than Welbeck, Trossard, McAllister, Basuma, Lallana. In shots in the box, We still got Welbeck and Trossard above him. I know Welbeck only played one game, but we still got Trossard above him in terms of shots in the box, in terms of big chances. Maupay hasn't had any big chances. You know, he's not been on the end of any big chances. Expected goals, we can see Maupay, again, nowhere to be seen, right down the list. In terms of key passes, he's actually not bad. I mean, creativity, yeah, okay, Maupay's not looking too bad, but that's not what we're looking for. With a forward, the only way they get bonus points is if they score goals, and that's just not looking that likely. And I don't know, I guess Maupay is a better option than some forwards. I mean, I've seen a lot of people talk about, you know, particularly on wild cards, people kind of talking about going for like Tony and Sam Maximan. I would prefer Maupay to those players, but he's still not going to get a recommendation on this channel ever. So there we go, guys. That is the end of today's spiel about the double game week players. We spoke about everything. We spoke about Manchester. We spoke about the fixtures. We spoke about Manchester United options to go for. We spoke about Brighton players to go for. We spoke a little bit about captains. I think to recap on captains, I think the main captain options are going to be obviously Ronaldo and Bruno, but I do think De Gea is definitely worth a shout for your captain option as well. I would be picking one of those three for your captain. I wouldn't be going near a Brighton player for captaincy. And some of the, you know, Dallo, Elanga, or whatever other Manchester United players you happen to have, don't think I really would be touching them either in terms of captaincy. It's got to have to be between Ronaldo, Bruno, and De Gea out of the double game week players. So there we go. But anyway, I hope this was useful or interesting, or at least scratched an itch where you kind of just want it. You just want FPL stuff. You just want FPL stuff. I know I do. So hopefully this kept you going a little bit until we do get back to the proper content, actually making videos. But if you did enjoy what you saw today, please do leave a like. Massively appreciated. Feel free to revisit this video closer to Game Week 25, because this is a video really about Game Week 25, which is in like a year's time. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that as well. But aside from that, guys, thanks you to all of you who have watched live, who have watched not live, those of you who have left comments, those of you who have talked in the chat. Hope you're all having a great week. Hope you're looking forward to the football finally coming back. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you tomorrow for another stream at 6 p.m. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.